Hey everyone, it's Michael. Today I have a really special thing to show you. I haven't reviewed many Goosebumps comics or adaptations in comic book form here on my channel, but this is going to be one of them. One of the first ones I've done after like the two or so that I've done so far. I've only done the IDW books, but I haven't done any Goosebumps Graphix. And today we're going to be talking about Goosebumps Graphix 2, or Volume 2 if you just want to call it that. Its other part of its name that I cannot remember what that's called right now is called Terror Trips. And yeah, this has some of my favorite like Goosebumps type stuff in it. One Day at Horrorland is the first story in here. Then you have one that I just recently fell in love with called A Shocker on Shock Street. I had never read it before, and then I recently read it. And then you have Deep Trouble, which is another really good one that I like. The book itself, for the most part, is really good. Really surprisingly good. These are all based as adaptations into comic book form of the novels, not the TV episodes, like how the TV books are from the 90s. It is basically just adaptations of the books. And they're like 40-page adaptations each, pretty much, for the most part. And it does start off with One Day at Horrorland, like I said. Now, I want to talk about some of these artists and adapters, if you will. Now, One Day at Horrorland, of course, is about a family that are trying to go to a certain, like, theme park type thing for their little vacation. It's the mom, dad, their son and daughter, and the son's best friend, Clay. And when they're going to the theme park called, or wherever they're going, Zoo Gardens, I think is the name of it. When they're trying to get there, they end up finding a sign that's called Horrorland, and they end up going the extra mile to get to Horrorland, which is like a horror theme park. They just want to kind of visit and see what it's like. But when they get out of their car to go inside and take a rest and stuff and try to get some directions to find Zoo Gardens or whatever it is, the original place they were going to go, their car explodes. And they're basically stuck in the park. Now, I was curious to see what they would do with this story and with the next story, Shocker on Shock Street, now that I'm a huge fan of that. I wanted to see what they would do with the rides and the art style for the rides. Things like the Doom Slide and so many other things that are in the theme park rides themselves. And they were fantastic. The art is fantastic. I'll show you little examples here in a moment. But the art for One Day at Horrorland is very good. I think Shocker on Shock Street has better art, because all of these are adapted, drawn, whatever, by different people. 3 different people for all 3 of the stories, each. One for each of them. And One Day at Horrorland is very good. I really dug it. I'm really surprised by how good the comic adaptation turned out. A lot of the time, when you read like manga adaptations of famous novels and famous movies, like there's manga adaptations of Star Wars, the original trilogy, and I think also Phantom Menace, and I think that's all they ever did. When you read comic book adaptations of like The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, not very good. Pretty horrible typically. Leave out a lot of information, a lot of the horrible improv that makes its way into movies with the actors and actresses and director. They don't make it into the comic a lot of the time. Usually it's just based around the script. Just clear cut the script itself. And these stories did a fantastic job for the most part of adapting. But we'll kind of get more into the criticisms as the review goes on. A lot of my criticism is aimed at Deep Trouble in this book, that adaptation of this story. And yeah, but anyway, let's talk about the artist for One Day at Horrorland, Jill Thompson. I was totally shocked when I saw that Jill Thompson worked on this. Jill Thompson, for anybody who doesn't know, I don't know if any younger kids, younger than my age, I'm almost 25, I don't know how many kids nowadays would know what Scary Godmother is. And Scary Godmother was not on for very long. I think they did like a pilot episode that was like a short film, like a type of like hour-long, 45-minute long, 40-minute episode thing on TV, which I had on DVD back in the day, and I'm so regretful that I got rid of it. I want to watch it so bad. I might buy another copy at some point. I guess it's a book series too, I don't know, but she apparently created Scary Godmother, and I could not believe that when I found that out reading the back of this book. Jill Thompson did a really good job. The only thing I would criticize about One Day at Horrorland was that sometimes, okay, so the way you read a comic, right? You start at the left top panel and you read right. And then if there's words at the bottom of a picture, you start at the bottom left and you read to the right, just like you would a regular book, left to right, all the way. There are times where it's like you'll have a thought bubble right here that you're supposed to read, but then you're supposed to actually go immediately underneath it, even though there's words over here. Then you're supposed to read immediately under what you just read. That's a thought bubble. So there's times where you accidentally spoil the scene for yourself, and then you read them left to right, and it doesn't make any sense, and you have to go back and realize, oh, there was a mistake here, somebody didn't know how to format a comic. I don't know how much Jill Thompson is familiar with that or not. I don't know if she's ever worked in comics, as far as I know. I'm just clueless, I can't tell you. And yet, I respect the woman to death. I loved Scary Godmother when I was a kid. It's one of those weird Tim Burton type things that I just love, like Sleepy Hollow and Batman Returns. I love a lot of Tim Burton's style for his movies. Nightmare Before Christmas. That was the style they brought to that weird little show. And so I respect her immensely. I thought she did a fantastic job. And here's kind of a sample of the artwork. It's very basic. All of it's going to be in black and white. It might not look the best right now because I'm not really showing you any panels with anything special on it. Maybe I'll show you the Doom slide. Yeah, the Doom slide was my favorite. Look at all the curvy Doom stuff for the slides. I mean, this is somebody going down. It might look like gibberish right now in the video, but if you saw it in real life, you'd be able to understand it. It looks a lot better in person, in my opinion. Then the next story that was adapted was from a fellow named Jamie Tolagson? I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. He did Shocker on Shock Street, and it's amazing. It steals the entire show. As good as One Day at Horrorland was, I genuinely did not think that Shocker on Shock Street would be adapted so wonderfully to comic books the way it was. It is fantastic. It is so good, and I cannot believe it, how good that adaptation was. Jamie did a fantastic job. Here's a sample of the artwork. He actually got all of the stuff that I complained about. Like, here's Wolf Boy and Wolf Girl, right here. Very cool looking. I love the art style. It's so good. It looks like straight up real comic art from like the 90s. I love 90s comic art. Looks really good. Really impressive. He actually never messed up, as far as I know, of the left to right thing we just talked about. He actually got that exactly right. Really surprised me by how good that portion of this book was. I did not expect Shocker on Shock Street to be that great. Like I said, I just read the book itself a few days ago and fell absolutely in love with it. The TV episode was okay for the most part. It wasn't as stellar and wonderful as Shocker on Shock Street's novel was by R.L. Stine. This adaptation is just as good, if not possibly better than Shocker on Shock Street's novel. The novel feels more full. It feels more filled up, I guess. It feels more natural compared to how this story has obvious things cut out, but I don't know if I would notice that if I hadn't read the novel already and knew things like the girl that first comes on the tram car to pick up the main kids in that story. She's not in here. They cut that out of the book. There's not many things they cut out of these stories, but, you know, that was one of them. Now, this is the part where I don't want to be horribly mean. There was good intentions. I understand the art style that Amy Kim Ganter was going for. Deep Trouble is adapted well in script here, as in dialogue and setting and what to have in the story and what not to, but it is so completely polluted. And I hate to say that word because I love some manga and I love some anime, but mostly manga I like more than anime a lot of the time. It's filled with the art style and the sound effect words bubbled everywhere that manga has. So like if a door in a sci-fi manga opens up, which manga is Japanese comics like Dragon Ball Z and stuff, if a door that slides open, right, then you're gonna have like a little tiny word that says like swish, like a little noise sound effect thing. And that can be cool and that can be effective. It's not good in Goosebumps. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not good here either. When I show you the art style for Deep Trouble, I think it's probably going to offend you because of how wonderful the art was on the other two adaptations for Shocker on Shock Street and One Day at Horrorland. I really hate to do this to you, but you need to see it. Look at this. What have they done? What happened to Deep Trouble? I'm fascinated by how bad this book is. The Deep Trouble section of the book is. Again, the story is fine. It's very loyal to the actual novel itself. And that's really all it has going for it. It is not good. It It is not good when it comes to adapting this to a comic book. I don't know if, what was that person's name again? I'm sorry. I mess up sometimes. Amy Kim Ganter. I don't know if Amy didn't realize what was going to happen. Like, that she would have this cartoony, silly, over-the-top, manga-like humor with the little sound effect words everywhere and stuff. It's very easily, obviously influenced by Japanese manga. I don't know if she didn't realize that's not what everybody else was going to do. And I'm sure there's an audience out there for that. I'm sure it is for Deep Trouble being adapted that way. It's just not good. I don't like it. I think it looks awful, frankly. And I hate to be that way. I hate to sound that way. I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but that's the worst part of the book. And it's not because of the story, because the story from R.L. Stine's basically adapted word for word, motion for motion here. It ain't the story, it's the art. The art is what ruins it, especially compared to the first two stories being so amazingly well done. They were just executed so well, and I'm not used to seeing adaptations at all being like that for comics. Things being turned into a comic book. I'm really, really dumbfounded by how this turned out the way it was. You would think that the editors and stuff would be like, oh, you know what, Amy, we should probably send you back and have you redo this. Just because it would fit in better with the other two stories, but they didn't, and it doesn't. So, when it comes to Goosebumps Graphix, Book 2, or Volume 2, like I said, Terror Trips, which, by the way, Deep Trouble, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically a bunch of kids, two kids specifically, who get on the boat with their uncle named Dr. Deep and his, like, guy that helps him out with stuff, Alexander. And they are approached by a particular man and a woman who are kind of like from a government type thing. They offer them $1 million to try to find a creature out in the wilderness, like in the sea and ocean, because they stay in the ocean all the time. Good story. Good story. Very cartoonish adaptation here. I don't like it. But anyway, what did you think about Goosebumps Graphix, Book 2, Volume 2, whatever, Terror Trips? Put your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, folks. I'm fascinated to hear what people have to say about this adaptation, or these adaptations. I'm shocked that Jill Thompson's involved with this. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she was more, like, if she's not as popular now as she was when Scary Godmother came out when I was, like, a kid. I think the Scary Godmother got really popular around like 2003, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. I was shocked to see her involved with this, but I was glad that she was, because One Day at Horrorland turned out really good. And again, Shocker on Shock Street is easily my favorite part of the entire book. It's fantastic. But anyway, I'm curious to see what the other Graphix books are going to be like. I don't think these three artists are involved with that first book, or the third book for that matter. Very curious at some point. I like to actually read all of the novels before I read these adaptations in comic book form. So if it takes me a while to get to these, it's usually because I haven't read the other books in the story or collection yet. So bear with me when it comes to just doing Book 2 and haven't done Book 1 and won't do Book 3 for a while probably. Even though Book 3 has Ghost Beach in it, so I'm really excited for that as well. If I had to rate Book 2 on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give Terror Trips probably a 4 out of 5, and it's a pretty high 4 out of 5. The only reason it's dropped down is because of Deep Trouble, the art, specifically. This was such a good book. This was a really good adaptation to a comic form. I'm really surprised to see this, like I said. I recommend it. If your kid is not ready yet for, like, scarier stories to be read to them, but they like to experience art and like to experience pictures and stuff like that, this is a great starting place for Goosebumps for them. I highly, 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 highly recommend starting here for your kids. Even if you're an adult like myself that collects and wants to read these books, I think you'll like it. I think you'll really dig most of this, especially Shocker on Shock Street, which looks impeccable with that artwork. The plot twists are great, everything's executed pretty well. Sometimes the stories can feel a little rushed, but it is what it is. It's an adaptation. I don't really blame them all that much, but they feel mostly paced fine to me in comic book form. Anyway, 4 out of 5 stars for me. What did you guys think? Put your thoughts and comments down below. Tell me what you think about my review and about the book itself, all that stuff. What do you think about these individual artists who adapted these stories? What do you think about Jill Thompson? That's the real question here. What was your favorite book in the entire book? Or the short story adaptation in the book. What did you think? I'd love to hear everything down below. Just put whatever you want in the comment section. Nobody cares. Anyway, Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.